been working together for about 30 years. So our practice is really based around how do you collaborate with somebody? So everything stems from that. How do you make work that is a combination of two people's work? So all the media, all the processes come from that premise, don't they?
Yeah, we both trained. I trained as a fashion textile print designer, and used a lot of colour and pattern. And Chris trained as an architectural stone carver, just using stone and monochrome. So we decided to start working together when we cycled to Santiago de Compostela. We gave up our house in Cambridge and thought we're going to cycle to Santiago de Compostela, and we were really interested in Romanesque carving because it was actually painted. And after that trip, the carving and the colour came together, and that's when we started working together, using colour on stone and big sculptures and commissioned pieces. So we work in collage, sculpture, performance, and lots of multimedia, cut-up poetry. So we really love collaborating with other artists, and because when we work together, the ego disappears and it's like a third person, so it enables us to be able to relax and enjoy the processes. And quite often there's not a lot of talking when we're collaborating. I might make something and then I'll hand it over to Chris, and he will take something from it and hand it back to me. So it's a collaboration, visual collaboration, and it goes from 2D to 3D back to 2D. And we've recently been making some wearable sculptures, so the sculptures has now turned into fabric and performance. So it's an ever-evolving collaboration. And when you offered us this residency, Nikki, it was amazing because we were really interested in continuing our travelling collage, and that has about sort of 6 iterations of going from. In fact, I'm going to pass to Chris because he can explain it much better than me.
Yeah, no, it's a collage that essentially responds to each environment that it's in, bringing previous imagery, which is then reworked, then applied to this thing, which actually gets thicker, like a sort of series of posters, and then is taken to the next place. So we've been working on some imagery from its last kind of installation, which was in Cyprus School of Art.
And that was the last piece that we made in Cyprus. So that's
yeah. So we've been working on some more images from that, which will then go to the next iteration, wherever that might be. So we've been doing some work on that. We've been doing some work on some bit of colour poetry. We've been doing some work on some models for some small sculptures as well, which are sort of based around something completely different, a different kind of narrative, which is to do with our house, which might be underwater in 100 years. And we've decided, actually, we'll have a beachfront property.
Should we be laughing at that?
So we should boost the value of it, but the Barbara Cummins novel, Who's Changed and Who Is Dead, about the kind of big flood and all the kind of disasters that happen around that, which is quite a nice book.
Yeah.
So we're kind of creating characters around that.
So Chris has made some little figures over here, and there's one's called, the daddy's called Moss Man, and then we have the mummy, Moss Mama, and the baby. And it's the idea of these people who are basically living in floods. So they're carrying lots of flotsam and jetsam around with them, and we're going to fire them, and then they will be painted. So everything is polychromatic. We colour every sculpture that we make. So it's been really exciting actually working on 3 different sort of projects while we've been here. And we've loved just being here, mixing up colour in an amazing light, and having this space is absolutely fantastic to have the space to work in, and enable us to be, I feel like we've been free, haven't we, Chris?
It's been a real kind of, bit of a turning point actually in our
I was curious to ask you, Chris, just something that Evelyn said, that when you first started collaborating, you were working in sculpture and obviously not with colour, and then you came from such a different background. That would have been interesting, that sort of leap to working with Evelyn Can you tell us about that? Because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, well, I suppose the thing is that it's a bit like composing a picture, you know, you're thinking about colour composition, and so Evelyn kind of brought this aesthetic that when you apply colour to a 3D object, you completely change the way it's seen. You know, the emphasis changes depending on what colour you put where, same as you know, see if you compose a picture. So yeah, I was really interested in how that completely changed the way a 3D object is seen when you start applying colour to it. And I'd sort of been interested in colour on sculpture because I knew Romanesque and Roman Greek sculpture was coloured, but hadn't actually done it. So Evelyn kind of did that to some of the work that I was doing, and there was a particular piece, a plaster piece that we did, plaster, and I kind of made it in, you know, white plaster, and Evelyn started colouring it, and suddenly it, you know, came to life almost.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
And can you talk a bit about the performance aspect of your work?
Yeah, we like working. So there's lots of different sorts of performance. We kind of we do a series. We have poems that we do, which rely on kind of sound, music, various bits of performance. But we also work with performance groups. There's a particular group we work with called Needle Sally, who did a lot of kind of Dada-esque performances. We've done a performance with dance, the Rombert dance. We've designed costumes for them and worked with musicians and dancers and been involved with those. And also performances around kind of digital art as well, using projections and some very clever programs that some people that we've worked with have developed, which respond to movement and colour. So yeah, all sorts of different things. Just the idea of having time-based performances, if you like, you know, beginning and an end, things which are not static. I'm quite interested in that.
The most recent one we've done was with an animator from Bauhaus School. So that was really interesting because we were quite interested in the idea of something being animated, and so we made some wearable sculptures, and we at that point I and Alina decided to wear them, so we created them and did it with a green screen, and she then animated them, so it went from 2D to 3D and then back to 2D again for her animation. So, and then we're going to add sound to that as well. So that was quite interesting. So we never quite know what's going to the outcome. For us, I found that really exciting, not knowing what's going to happen. So that's why we really enjoy collaborating with people, because actually when Chris and I work together, we don't really know what this third thing's going to happen. So that's the bit that's exciting, isn't it? Yeah.
Not knowing.
I think the collaboration is extraordinary to be able to work together in silence. Goes from 2D to 3D, back again. You know, you both feel comfortable with where it's going, the journey it's taking.
Yeah, it's the only thing we don't argue about, isn't it?
We argue about washing up, but we don't argue about the art.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's
Thank you.